First, though, we are going straight to Argentina, where 3 days of mourning have been declared. Owen has been talking to Marcela Mora Y Araujo.
We are going live to Argentina this morning, and I am delighted to say that we are once again joined by Marcela Mora Y Araujo. You're in Buenos Aires. I presume not much sleep has been had overnight, Marcela.
Not really, not so far. It's about 3 a.m. Just gone 3 a.m. here at the moment. But yeah, there is definitely a very enhanced sense of a wake, a massive wake going on in the city. Hordes of fans, football fans, have moved to the obelisk in the centre of town, mostly the Boca fans to start off with, in an organised procession with banners and, you know, the club colours and so on. A ton of flowers and candles and prayers being held in various points across the city where he was convalescing, in the northern end of the city, in the district of Tigre, in where he used to live, near his home of many years. And the presidential house, the Pink House as it's known, which is the center of government in Plaza de Mayo in downtown Buenos Aires, is going to be open for mourners, much in the way that our, you know, most revered state leaders were, Evita, Perón, and Nestor Kirchner more recently. So he will lay in wake there, and he can be visited. Currently, it's just the family there. There's been TV crews stationed outside, very, very heavy police presence all around the city, and indeed escorting his body as it moved towards the Pink House. And apparently it was the family's choice. They were offered Argentina Juniors football stadium and various other options. And the president of Argentina said, but of course, the presidential house is at your disposal. And they apparently chose that, and also asked that the visiting hours to the public be restrained to just today. So it's going to be from 6 a.m. Buenos Aires time to about 4 or 5 p.m. this afternoon. Originally, there'd been talk of 3 days, but apparently the family aren't so keen. So we'll have to see what happens. It's interesting. It's really been a loud honking, quite celebratory mood, football chanting, but also quite tearful outpourings of emotion and grief. And I think it's important to bear in mind that Argentina has been in the most strict lockdown due to COVID since March. Things are only just beginning to ease up a little and open up. So a lot of these people are presumably coming out into the streets to pour their grief, having been really housebound for very many months. So I think, you know, a lot of thought needs to go into how this will be managed over the coming days. And I think a lot of thought is going into this. So police, government forces, security forces, even, you know, the family themselves are bearing in mind that this is a huge loss for the people, and also, you know, trying to retain a sense of privacy and mourning in a more intimate manner, which I think would be a first for Maradona and for those close to Maradona. But
so it's 3:20 over there at the moment. Are we talking about people being on the street right now as we speak? And is it mostly, as you say, the real hardcore Boca fans out at the moment at this stage in the night, or is it very much everybody still out there going through the night? Because I guess there isn't much else to do at the moment other than mourn one of the greatest sons of Argentina.
Well, I'm not too far from the centre of the city and the obelisk, but it's fairly quiet around here now. There was some honking and chanting earlier on. Definitely on TV, which is beaming live with all-night shows on practically every channel, is covering the event. With cameras at the White House, at the obelisk, at the Boca Stadium, at the Argentina Stadium, and so on. It is a massive gathering. I mean, as I say, originally it was the hardcore fans, the football fans, the organised fans that went first, and the obelisk is place where you go to celebrate if your team wins, if Argentina wins an international game, if you want to protest something, you know, it's the gathering of the masses in Buenos Aires, but it's growing rather than, you know, no one's actually going home. People are coming along, and I think the idea of opening the doors at 6 a.m. is there's already queues forming, and people will try to get there early, and I suspect the people who will queue and want to go in may not be solely the hardcore football fans. There's some women and children, not that many tonight, but I suspect many will come out. And a lot of people who either knew him or grew up watching him or feel some sense of national pride, even if they're not hardcore football fans or indeed football fans at all. I mean, I have seen so many people discussing how they don't really like football, but they still feel very sad. So, you know, it's really, it reminds me actually quite a lot of when Princess Diana died, and the outpouring of grief and the types of people that were going out into the street to manifest their sense of loss was incredibly varied. You couldn't say, oh, it's just the royalists or it's just the kind of little girls who believe in princesses. It's a massive phenomenon, and by that I mean the nation is gripped by this loss and the sense of loss, and I think there will be a lot of people out in the streets for several days.
And that is one of the more fascinating things, that it's not just confined to Argentina, it transcends sport all around the world. Like, as I was just mentioning to you before we came on air, it led the main evening news here in Ireland last night. It's on the front page of most of the newspapers around the world this morning. Is there an appreciation in Argentina for what Maradona did globally? I mean, the scenes that you might see in Naples, for example, overnight, that I know it is very much Argentinian, but different parts of the world like to claim a bit of Maradona too.
There's a lovely set of exchanges of anecdotes that people are posting online about moments when being somewhere and being Argentinian led to something cute or nice or kind purely on the strength of being from the same country as Maradona. I mean, it happened to me where someone wouldn't charge me for sandwiches on a beach holiday about 25 years ago because I was from Argentina. It was like, no one, Maradona doesn't pay. I was like, okay. But a lot of levels, people were saying they'd been asked for autographs in the Far East because they're from the same country as Maradona, and tourists would go, but I can't sign an autograph. Yes, please do. You're from the same country as Maradona. And that has been rampant. I think it might become a little subgenre in itself, what the things that happen to us around the world by virtue of the fact of coming from the same country. There's also been a lot of coverage of the different front pages, obviously, and the reactions and responses. And of course, President Macron of France wrote this incredible, moving, epic piece of literature as a tribute, and that has been widely covered. And in fact, the president of Argentina has also tweeted it saying, wow, what an amazing head of state, and so on. So there's a kind of all levels of, and obviously the Pope himself has expressed his condolences. I think he is one of the biggest names in the world, in terms of celebrity and fame, and his contribution to his field, if you like, in not just the world of football or the football industry, but his excellence at what he did has surpassed possibly anyone alive today. And sadly, he is no longer in that category. But I think the impact is monumentally big, and there's an incredible awareness in Argentina of how big this is internationally, to the extent that there was the talk of opening the borders just to let international press in, because allegedly Argentina's borders are under quite strict control at the moment, so it's not that easy to come in or out for tourists or foreign people. But there was talk that the foreign press would be allowed in over the next few days. So we'll see. I mean, it's a strange combination of COVID restrictions and a massive national event. And I think everyone's quite sensitive and aware that this needs to be, handled with sensitivity.
For sure. And one final thing then, just to wrap up on Marcela. By the way, anybody wants to check out Marcela's obituary to Diego Maradona, it's on the Guardian website right now. It is brilliant, Marcela, but I think what's really important when we have these conversations is that we embrace the flaws of Diego Maradona, that maybe very quickly airbrushing a character can happen immediately after death. And I think that Maradona, more than perhaps any other sports person, his flaws are as important. His flaws informed the identity that a lot of people got to know and a lot of people got to love in a way about Diego Maradona, both during his football career and after it. Is that the sense in Argentina over the last 24 hours that the 3D version of Maradona must be appreciated?
I think some people have that sense very strongly. We had some very interesting conversations among women earlier today, and a lot of them talking about how their daughters are responding, maybe, daughters in their 20s and so on, because obviously one of the things he was mostly on the news for in recent years was his rather unsavory treatment of his partners and women. And I think there is a feminist viewpoint, if you like, that's been discussing this. I have to say the overriding commentary and image and media coverage today, throughout the day and throughout the night, has been the male football press lamenting the loss of the great footballer. There is some talk of his flawed character and quite a lot of laughter and joke about his unreliability and so on. And the drug issue is very, very prominent because his drug abuse was something he was very candid about and happy to discuss. So that's kind of the accepted flaw that gets publicized. But yes, it's very difficult, I think. I mean, there's always been a kind of line of thought that says, oh, very clever with his feet, stupid with his head, or, a genius for football, but really a very reprehensible being in other matters. I find it impossible to disengage the two. I think generally it's hard to disengage aspects of people. We all have many aspects and are still one person. But with him particularly, it feels like the flawed and the genius are yin and yang to the same man. And yes, I mean, I myself found it difficult to find the words to pay tribute without being offensive, but also to not mention the things that are really difficult to stomach about him. And I think, as you say, there's a kind of a tendency I think obituaries and the moment of death is a moment of maybe forgiveness and genuinely wishing a restful eternity to someone who's given so much. And it's a very, very delicate balance, and we'll have to see how that pans out over time, over history. Mm-hmm. Today, it's very difficult to say anything truly critical or judgmental about him, because the sense of immediacy and the emotional immediacy is very poignant. But I think it's important that we don't airbrush is the perfect expression, as you say, airbrush it out so that it's completely not part of his history or his legacy, because it's very much part of who he was, and important that we all take it on board and learn from it and address it and name it, I think. So I'm pleased young girls are aware of some of the issues, and I hope young boys will be too.
It's a very good note to end it on. Marcela, it's always great chatting to you. I know you're going to be hopping from interview to interview this morning. Thanks a million for getting up so early or staying up all night, and chat to you again soon.
Speak to you soon. Thank you.